Welcome everybody to this particular digital broadcast on content curation for teaching and learning with Concord LibPaths. I'm Karen Bonanno, the founder and national director for EduWebinar, and I'll be your host for this broadcast. I'm delighted to have the Concord Infinity team, Colin and Andrea, and also one of their clients, Madison, on the call. And they're going to take you through a lot of the content and also share a whole lot of rich information with you about this aspect of content curation, which is a fairly hot topic to be involved in. Just before I hand over to them, some basic housekeeping. Most of you, I would believe, are familiar with Zoom, but in this instance, you've come in what we call the listen only mode. And what you can do is you'll see in your Zoom, you've got the chat facility. That's where we'd love you to put your questions in as they come to mind. And the team will pause the presentation to answer those questions as we go through, plus also at the end of the broadcast. Another aspect too, as we finish off the broadcast, there'll be a little pop-up evaluation form. It'd be great if you can take the time to complete that to provide us with your individual feedback and also any comments or additional questions that you might have for the team. And there will be an email follow-up that will come out tomorrow, and that will have some more information for you, plus some links so you can go back and review in case you miss some of the detail of this particular evening. So I'm going to hand over to you, Andrea, to introduce your team and get us underway.
Excellent. So I'll just share my screen and just get myself all sorted here. So tonight I'm joined by Madison Donnelly, and she's going to be presenting partway through the session.
And also, sorry, Andrea, I just need to come in. We're seeing your notes.
Oh, okay.
So we're not seeing your actual full screen presentation.
Oh, so sorry, I must have shared the wrong screen there.
Yeah, it's just that tricky little business of which screen to share.
Thank you. I do apologise.
That's all right. We're underway now. Thank you.
Excellent. And so I'm joined by Madison, and she's going to be sharing partway through our presentation today. But I'm going to get us started. And we've got Colin from Concord online with us too, and he's going to be helping with some of those questions as they come up. And so to get us started, we'll have a look at what we're going to be moving through tonight. So after the webinar, you will receive a recording of our session and a copy of this slide deck that I'm using, and a bit of a cheat sheet with all the highlights, including any links to tools. So we'll be covering a range of key ideas throughout the webinar. So perhaps some ideas will plant a seed in your mind as we go, but having these resources to refer back to will help you to revisit other key ideas as time goes on. And so we'll begin by talking about the learning landscape and the role of our librarian. We're going to look at curating content to support curriculum. And then I'm going to hand over to Madison. And then we're looking at digital design principles and some tools for content curation and digital design. So where do we begin? The ASLA Futures paper was published nearly 10 years ago, and we're still working to build these key tenets into our practice. Content curation is about these three things: future-focused learning, interest-driven participation, and multimodal investigation and experimentation with information. So let's unpack that further. The needs of our learners may be increasingly diverse, as are their experiences in an online environment. Our world is increasingly responsive and personalised, as should our teaching and learning be. We've always taught multiliteracies, and digital literacy is one facet of what we must equip students with. But the online environment also requires high levels of visual literacy, and the proliferation of fake news, media literacy becomes an important tool for our learners. I think this quote from the Futures paper sums up the key challenge that this new learning landscape has created for school library leaders. Tonight, we're looking at how that traditional role of gatekeeper can evolve to meet the changing dynamics of how our learners interact with information. So let's explore this new role of the school librarian. The new role of the librarian. I've called this the new role, but I want you to see that this list is not groundbreaking. It's not revolutionary. This is what we have been doing. It is what we will keep doing. Only the vehicle is changing. The tools at our disposal are changing, but with that change comes potential. A range of resources and equitable access to those resources. Librarians are uniquely equipped to lead our schools, though that potential is not always seen by our communities, or perhaps more accurately, by the leadership teams in our schools. But this is where the real challenge lies. We need to make ourselves indispensable to achieving the strategic goals of the school, and that starts with curriculum and technology. Content curation is about using technologies for information creation, storage, retrieval, dissemination, organisation, and communication. This should all be in the support of the curriculum goals defined by your school as part of their strategic plan. But what does this mean? So how do we curate content to support the curriculum goals of our school in the everyday setting? Perhaps you're at the beginning of this journey, perhaps you're looking for ways to expand and develop this aspect of your role. So I've broken this down into 4 key components, starting with supporting broad, open discovery. And how do we do that? Tell a story through our organisation of information, helping our students make sense and interpreting that information by adding context for them. What is a librarian if not a storyteller? We are experts at sharing and engaging our students with stories. This is what content curation is all about. Modelling the organisation of content, the organisation of our digital selves. What is a librarian if not a role model? We're experts at modelling good research strategies, academic integrity, copyright ethics, effective pedagogy, and the list goes on. We have always inspired curiosity, nurtured those who seek to know more. When you're putting together resources and other digital content, this is what you are doing. We are modelling how to engage with online information. We are modelling how to make sense of the world, a new world based more online than in reality for many of our students. But we're also empowering them to continue that learning for themselves and by themselves. So we also translating that information skills for the digital classroom. Rather than throwing the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, we need to only translate our expertise to this new context. We've always worked to ensure our collections include quality resources, expose diverse points of view, and are relevant to the needs of our communities. Now we do so with digital resources. We can send our students off to search Infobase or another subscription database, but we can also lead them to the best of what Infobase can offer. We can bring together resources from many sources, as we've always done with print resources, to ensure the crucial scaffolding that we've always delivered. Interestingly, the move to digital collections is seen to challenge equity by the devices students have or don't have to access those collections. But it also gives us the opportunity to reach our students more directly in a more targeted way than ever before, as it can support our collaboration with teachers and teaching teams too. If you're feeling less confident about your knowledge of the curriculum, use collaboration to inform your choices. Connect with curriculum leaders, connect with the teachers of that curriculum, ask them for feedback and be responsive to requests they make. Seek them out rather than waiting for them to seek the library out. Ultimately though, content curation is just another application of our collection management strategies. So the third aspect, target your efforts for efficacy and efficiency. When setting targets for your library program, be specific. Make sure they're achievable by breaking them down into actionable steps. Don't get caught up in how things have always been done. Take stock of how you're spending your time. Are you spending extra time on tasks that require a lot of effort but don't see enough reward? How can you reach the widest audience and support the most people within the time available to you? Perhaps identify a teaching team or individual teachers or even a student groups. Focus your energy on working with them and creating content for them. Word will spread, I promise. As the great work you do is put on show, students will begin to seek out your support. Teachers will begin to ask for something like that for their next subject or for their other classes. You need to collaborate with those who are open to what you can offer them and value your contributions. These are your champions. Build a library program, might be small, but it will be mighty. And the fourth is scale your library program and reach your community at their point of need. There's a lot that can be learned from modern marketing techniques. To scale your library program, you'll need to create a presence or brand for both your library and yourself. I like to use the term broadcast here rather than promote, because I feel that the idea of self-promotion can make us all feel quite uncomfortable. But to remain relevant to your school community, you must be the one to show them why you're relevant and why your library program has value. This can take time and a lot of perseverance, as I'm sure you all know. Over time, though, you will begin to build a community within your community. They will be your promoters and your advocates. These are those champions we were referring to in the last slide. None of these efforts, though, are made in isolation. Each is a brick you're building a foundation for your library program. Libraries are in a unique position to see the gaps between what is explicitly taught in terms of transferable skills, for example, research strategies, study skills, and so on, that teachers who are isolated within specific curriculum areas may not see. This is the sweet spot for libraries. This is where we can make our mark. So let's take a look at these key components and what they might look like in action. So we know that actually a number of you have come along tonight specifically to hear Madison speak about the exceptional digital library she's curated for her school. Her reputation among the school library community in Australia is fast growing, as she so generously shares her ideas and her insights on madisonslibrary.com through various social media platforms and through participation in a range of groups, committees, and professional developments that aim to promote and advocate for school libraries. We're very grateful that she was willing to come along and present tonight. So without further delay, I'll hand over to Madison.
Thank you, Andrea. That's a very kind introduction. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I really am just going to give sort of an example of everything that Andrea's just spoken about, and I couldn't agree more. Didn't really kind of plan to back it up in that way, but some of the things that Andrea's just said is, I hope I can show you where we're headed in that direction. As Andrea said, I'm at St Paul's School, and our library management system is Concord Infinity, and we use LibPaths, but everything that you can hear about tonight and see can be done with other systems. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm already working with the system that I'm kind of stuck in, the strategies still apply. But hopefully you can see the benefits and how much I love working with Infinity. I've got my socials there, so if you do want to contact me or get in touch, I love chatting about school library stuff or having questions, so please feel free to do that. I'm going to talk about how I go about planning, presenting, and then promoting my LibPaths. I'm using promoting, not broadcasting, because it's alliterative. I needed the P, had to match him. How do I go about planning? Because I know a lot of what I hear from other teach librarians who are already busy doing a million other things. How do I add this to my day when I'm already so busy? For me, it fits into my library strategic plan, and exactly like Andrea said, it fits in with our school strategic plan. And so when I go to the principal and go, this is what I'm doing, I can demonstrate how that's moving towards the goals of the library and the school. But it's also about what I use it for and how I use it so that I can demonstrate that. So for example, is it just curriculum based? Is it extracurricular? Ours initially started with curriculum based. Now I'm extending that into extracurricular. What is your library focused on? Is your library focused on reading? How are you showcasing that through your LibPaths or your curation content? Is it curriculum? Is it a mix of both? How do you intend to use that? I love how Andrea was talking about branding, because having that really clear brand about what your pages demonstrate to your school and the content that you create, how you lay that out, the color choices, everything, it all speaks to that. And I'm going to go into a little bit of that, how I worked with our marketing department to target that a little bit. But trying to fit it into your busy day, who is going to do this work for you? Is it you as the library technician, the teacher librarian, as the library team? You kind of need a plan. At the moment, it's the teacher librarians at my school. So I have a junior teacher librarian and myself in the secondary library. We're the ones putting together the curriculum-based content with our OPAC pages, with our reading pages. We then draw upon our library technicians to help with that, creating lists, but come up with a bit of a plan on how this is going to work for you. At the moment, we based our creation on staff requests. So a staff member walks in and says, I'm doing a unit with my Year 9 history group on World War I. I need some resources. So I'm like, yep, I'll pull the books off the shelves for you, create a collection there, but I'll also create you a LibPath. And just before we started, I was thanking Andrea because Concord Infinity have a LibPath portals where you can go and download these pre-created pages. And Andrea had already created the most incredible page on World War I. So I'm happily going to email that teacher tomorrow and say, yep, all done. And I didn't have to do any work at all, which I'm very pleased about. But I also recognize that when I look back at where I started and where I am now with my LibPaths, it's quite vastly different. So if you are worried about being able to create something like what we're going to see later with what Andrea shows us, I cannot create what Andrea creates. That's beyond my abilities at this stage, but I know I'm getting there. But no matter where you are in your creation journey or your ability to use these tools, it's a platform for you. I know that what I started with and how I was creating content was just some links. It was sort of minimal lists. And now when I look at that, I'm embedding things. I'm thinking more carefully about my layout of content. And so I can see how I've advanced in that. And I can see how that's starting to direct students in how they use it. And I can see how that there are further steps I can take, which is really exciting. But if you're thinking, there is no way I'm going to be able to create something like that, that's okay. Me neither, but there are techniques and skills and tools that you can use to start building that up. In terms of that, the layout and design, you can use columns, you can use first information at the top, those sort of things. You can add and remove backgrounds, you can create buttons and images and embedded websites so that students can use the website within these platforms. You can just list links, you can embed things from other sources that you use. I use ClickView a lot at our school, so I embed that a lot. My teachers are grateful for that, especially during online learning, because they're doing a particular film unit and they say, can you at least just start with the embedded ClickView film for me, because then I can send students straight there and they know that they've got access, rather than sending them, go to ClickView, find this, go to the, all of that. I have some go-to sources for when I need to find information, and I'm now experimenting with a variety of formats. So when we're curating that content, we're thinking more than just the list of books from the library or a list of links to websites. I'm embedding things like TikToks in our LibPaths, because that's the sort of content that students are engaging with for particular topics. And then in terms of promoting, so how am I going to get this to the students and the staff? Whenever I am doing a session with students, I always start them with how to find our page. So we have it branded under the Pulse. So that's directly linked in our learning management system and in their portal page and on the school's website, library page, lots of different pages that they can access. But I take them through those steps every single time. And inevitably there's someone new that's like, what are you even talking about? So I've got to step them through. So I'm always showing them that they have to navigate through that home page, and I'll show you that in a second, so that they know where they're going and how to find that before we get to the specific page that I want to take them in that session. Always doing that. We've got direct links. Sometimes we email that out. So, okay, dear Year 11 English class, I've just created this for you. Sometimes it's embedded that the teachers have the direct link. Sometimes it's please go to the Pulse and find this. In terms of staff, I promote at staff meetings to say, you're doing this topic, working with them. Would you like me to create a LibPath? I'm always asking that. Word of mouth has been incredible. I have now probably more than I can sometimes keep up with, because I have other teachers saying, oh, have you had a LibPath created for that? You should ask Maddie to create a LibPath for you on that. It's really, really spreading. I have a link on our staff portal, so I encourage the staff to find things there as much as the students would. We also have a request system. I do find that teachers don't use that. They usually just come and see me or email me, but they can put in a little ticket to say, yep, please give me this. I've attached the curriculum details. That's technically how that we like to do it, because then we can sort of filter them out and I can go, okay, this one's for my library technician, please get textbooks out. This one's for me creating a LibPath. So if you're, especially if you've got multiple people creating these for you, that might be helpful. We share them across the wider community. So the system allows me to create widgets. And so then I can, when I'm writing a newsletter article about book talk, then I can embed some of my sections of LibPaths and content using those widgets, so I can share them. And they are accessible from a wider community, which is really great, so that anyone can see them without needing to log on. And then sharing them within the network, such as this sort of event, as well as I do show other librarians, oh, this is what I've got on this section. And I mentioned the portal, which we'll explore in a little while. Just to give you a bit of a background on where we are before I show you what we've got, I believe our school started with LibPaths. We've been Concord Infinity longer than 2020, but I believe that's when we started LibPaths. I joined the school in 2021, so that's why I'm saying I believe, not really sure, but certainly my journey started in 21. And I know I started with those basic sort of links, lists of links and staff requests, creating that request system, managing how we're going to do this. Now I'm at the stage where when teachers come and ask me, or they say, oh, we're doing this topic in class, I can check, have I already created one? Yes. Okay, now let me update that. Let me bring that into what I know and can add to it for this year. Sometimes we are still creating new ones because more and more people are finding out about this, so we need to add some more. Upping my skills in different areas, working with Andrea, which is awesome. She's sharing the tips on how to do that. I have now customized our OPAC. So we have one for our junior library and one for our secondary. You'll see that in a minute. New home pages, new links, promoting that extracurricular, really taking that step and going, okay, this is what our library strategic plan is, that we are building a community, and that includes extracurricular as well as curriculum. So how does our online platform reflect that? And I'm now exploring, how can we go beyond the curriculum and extracurricular? How can I get ahead of requests so that I'm not reacting? How can I have these in place already? How can I explore this when moving into a new library? I'm currently in the middle of reevaluating my role, going to pitch to my principal tomorrow about what that looks like. How does what I can do with LibPaths, digital content creation and curation, reflect that? And where can I take it next? How can I promote this a little bit more widely? Which is exciting. Also, just wanted to quickly show that our students are using this and using it quite well, which is awesome. We're able to track that over time. I can see that our use has increased this year, which is really good. Is that reflective of our new layouts? Is that reflective of how much I'm pitching it and promoting it? Not really sure. I can see when they're using it. This is all through Google Analytics, because you can link that into this particular platform. I can see that some students are using it at 12 o'clock at night. Strange people. But I can see when they're mainly using it, which is really good. Let's go and have a look. So I'm just going to pause this for a minute while I get myself set up. Sorry, thinking music. Okay, hopefully you can now see our library page at our school. As I mentioned, the Pulse is linked there, and students are taken directly through a single sign-in login. Staff can do that as well. We also have that embedded on our staff homepage, which is really good. screen sharing is, sorry, the little, the Zoom thing is in the way, so I can't show you that at the moment. But this is our Pulse homepage using Concord Infinity LibPaths. Sometime at the end of last year, I met with our marketing director and showed him what we had created there and what was on this homepage. And we went through a bit of a brand audit of the library and what our systems were. And we said, what we need on this homepage needs to reflect everything that the library does. So we went from something that was just books to promoting our ebooks and audiobooks, promoting our blog, promoting our socials, promoting databases, promoting ClickView. So these they're just images that are hyperlinked. So this layout lets me do that. We've got our branding there. Everything is our school colours, which is awesome. We have carousels that promote our new resources. We have things that tie in displays in the library. So we use digital displays a lot, as well as, books that when they walk in, currently Bookflix is right there. So all of that is reflected on our digital spaces. We also have our, again, branding that we use Connect, Coach, Create. So Connect is reading, book clubs, D&D, all of those extracurricular things that sit within the library space. Coach is reflective of information literacy, library lessons, things like that. So that link, everything, this is again images that are hyperlinked to different lib page portals. And then Create, which is our maker space. And on hands-on activities, I can promote these things. I can promote books and audiobooks. I can promote the library opening hours. So I've really set this up to be more like what you would see a traditional web page looking like. We also then have all of our links to our curriculum and extracurricular pages. It's going to jump to Connect. So our first 4 are currently highlighted up the top. This is what the secondary school students can see. Again, lists, links, promoting that we're a student-driven collection so that they can see that they can use online forms as well as requesting. So I'm able to promote what's important to us at the moment. They can see all of the groups. They can click on links and request to join these groups, using the tools and the layouts of this to promote what I need to. I'm going to jump to something like Entrepreneurship, which is really big at our school. So I was able to use a different layout using images as links to different sections within the page. So that will jump down when I click on that to promote what's happening in the school within certain spaces. So that's something I worked with our Director of Entrepreneurship at the school to put together. In that case, she provided some of the links and then I was able to go and find others. When it comes to curriculum, the other areas that we do a lot for are English. We also do a lot for history, science, health. You can see that these are our previous branding. So this color was used a lot last year. We're starting to move away from that and go to our deeper school teal green. You can see that these have got links. So this is one of my older ones where I haven't embedded them quite correctly at the moment. Still works, but I've upskilled now so that next time we're running this, I would be able to reuse this, but address some of the formatting things. We use it for our interdisciplinary subject, IST. This is if you're in a IB school, that this would be similar, that you're using concepts to engage students in learning. So we've got whole web pages embedded here. So there's lots of scope that you can play with. It's a really simple platform to use and you can draw in a lot of resources. So there's just some examples of what we're doing and how we're using it. I'm going to hand back over to Andrea.
Okay, thank you, Madison. I'll just make sure I'm sharing the correct screen this time. And I will get my PowerPoint up again. Okay, so Just going to find my way back to area. Here we are. So as was so expertly demonstrated in Madison's presentation, to reach young people and engage them through all of the noise, you need to find a way to connect students with these digital collections. And it needs to look and feel like other experiences they're enjoying online. And that's through clever design. So design also allows us to employ pedagogy to ensure that we're responsive to that learning landscape. We're putting the learner at the heart of our collection to achieve learner-centred design. There are 12 principles of design, but we're going to be covering 6 design elements today, though I've paired a couple because I think they work hand in hand to ensure good pedagogy and communication. Really, that is what all of these design principles aim to improve: communication with your audience, be that students, teachers, parents, or the wider school community, or maybe your professional network. So let's take a closer look at these. The first paired principles are emphasis and proportion. Emphasis is all about making the right things stand out, and proportion is about how the different elements relate. At its simplest, give space to what is most important. And interestingly, that conversation that Madison spoke about with their marketing department, where they talked about putting at the top of the page that the students are landing on all of the things that will connect them to the different aspects of that library program. These are 2 distinct design principles, but for pedagogy and learner-centred design, they can serve the same purpose. These may be familiar terms, but it's about being intentional in applying them towards your purpose, how they help you to tell the story. So let's have a closer look at this example on the right. Emphasis is achieved through highlighting particular content in the menu, assigning each an identifying icon. Each new subtopic is easily identified by the larger title that matches the menu. Then sections within that subtopic are signposted with a smaller title, but consistent colour choices have been made. The main information is presented consistently in terms of the titles, text and layout. Supplementary resources like the videos in the first column and that information about COVID-19 and air pollution in the far right column. These are denoted with a different style of title to show that they are different types of information. Proportion is created through the adjustment of column widths, the positioning of the most important information in the widest column, but also by positioning this in the middle of the page. You can see how these 2 principles help create each other. The proportion of content allows the emphasis to show naturally. Be intentional about what you're choosing to make stand out. This might be through size differences, as it is in this example, or you can see the choice of colour and the inclusion of an identifying icon adds emphasis to those key areas of the design, which actually leads us nicely into the next design principle, hierarchy. Hierarchy is all about setting up your information according to importance. This is particularly crucial for text to ensure the reader is able to engage with the content fully. You might achieve this by ensuring important content has a prominent position, or you could employ anchors to ensure important information catches the attention of the learner as they move through the content. So let's have a closer look at our example of this hierarchy. This portal is for Year 10 history students to support them in locating primary source documents. See how important subtopics within the portal are included in the navigation menu across the top of the portal, and how they each are signposted with clearly defined title and border in order of appearance down the first column. Titles with solid background act as anchors for the eye as it passes down the page, and the inclusion of subtopics in the navigation ensures students can easily locate the specific content they may need when returning to this page in the future. But also, pardon me, but also emphasis and proportion are employed in a way that reinforces the hierarchy of information. Oh, goodness, close down my, here we go. Okay, so repetition is important in design. That's the sense of rhythm it can create is crucial to clear communication. Some easy ways to achieve this in your learning design is through consistent use of visual elements. Perhaps employ the rule of 3 for colour selection. When we take a look at some tools for design later in the webinar, there's an excellent tool I've included to support this colour selection. Though we are always trying to engage our students with the flashy elements of our design, we must also provide some consistency and a sense of familiarity that allows them to confidently move through the content for learning. This can be a fine line to balance. Let's see how repetition has been used effectively in 2 different designs. Our first example portal is designed for Year 9 history. This is actually the one Madison mentioned earlier. They're studying the First World War. Let's take a closer look at how banners have been used in this design. These banners have been created using one of the tools we'll be looking at later in the webinar. I've used a single template and modified the title, image, and colour. Because I've chosen to be consistent with the size, font, and layout in the banners, I can be a little bit more adventurous with colour choices. So rather than sticking to that rule of 3 for a single portal, I've decided to keep the banners consistent, but utilise more colours for interest. I've also been consistent in the size of those banners, in the size of the images and the video that has been included, and also in the layout of the text. So it's really important for students to be able to navigate through that. This second example aims to support Year 10 science students to learn more about their chosen international science project. Here, the structure of information is made consistent for each subtopic. For equity, it's important to ensure students could confidently pick a topic they are interested in without concern for the level of scaffolding available for each. As we move through the page, you can see each topic has consistent presentation, the same elements, but it has a unique colour to group those resources together. But the layout remains consistent. Just a moment. Okay, so the last pair of principles are movement and unity. So movement's all about how the eye travels over the design. To ensure learning is accessible for our students, we need to be intentional about guiding them through the information presented. This is essential for meaning making. Unity is about creating a consistent presentation within a single design, perhaps across your collection of designs, as so beautifully illustrated in Madison's presentation. Keeping these design principles in mind when curating content is a great way to remind yourself about the best pedagogy for presenting information to your students for learning. So let's take a closer look at this example. This example is a collection of resources related to poetry, and it's divided into 3 designated groupings, none of which are more important than the other, so they share equal emphasis in the design. Unity is created through the consistent presentation of the banners, the use of a single colour for each column, and the equal widths of the 3 columns draws the eye down the page rather than across. So that's that sense of movement, that they're drawn down through the topic by that use of colour in that column. And a variety of content being presented allows them to keep interest, and they can see. As for each topic, there's a variety of different types of resources for them. Repetition can be seen in the style of the banners, but also in the language choices. While emphasis and proportion ensure that each topic within the portal is given equal weighting, each set of resources serves a specific purpose as outlined in the banner, and it is presented as important in its own right. It may seem like hierarchy and the use of movement are in competition with each other, Perhaps the most important information is located throughout the design instead of at the top. In that case, this is where movement takes over, guiding the learner through the information to ensure they don't miss anything. But not all design principles will suit all content. In practice, how these design principles work together can be the key to presenting a curated digital resource collection that not only supports the curriculum goals of your school, but also meets the needs and desires of the learner by creating visual appeal and helping them to make sense of the information before them. You may be using some of these unintentionally without realising, or perhaps with some intention. But we hope that you feel empowered to make intentional choices around these design principles moving forward. Don't be overwhelmed by following all the rules. Pick one thing and give it a try. If it is a success, keep at it. If it doesn't work for you, pick something new to try. Try it again with a new resource later on. If you have a resource that's just not working for you, perhaps it's not getting the use you hoped it would as you put it together, review it with these principles in mind. Perhaps create a copy of the portal and make some changes to the emphasis or proportion, add some repetition, perhaps change some colours or titles to enhance the repetition. Maybe rearrange the content to ensure the hierarchy of information is clear. You might even share the two versions of your portal with key stakeholders, maybe a teacher or teaching team, maybe a group of students who wandered into the library at lunch. See what they think is more appealing, what's easier to read or follow. Ask them for advice on what they would change if they could. Give them that sense of control in giving you that feedback. So we started this evening by talking about the why of content curation. We moved on to talk about the what of content curation. So now we're going to talk about some of the how of content curation. There are some wonderful design tools to support learning design online. Tonight we only have time to look at a smaller selection, but all of these tools are linked on the cheat sheet that you'll receive with that email distribution. So you'll receive that after the session and you can head in and start experimenting. Our first two tools, Pexels and Unsplash, are platforms to find excellent visual elements to include in your design. The content of both platforms is royalty free, which is of value in a couple ways. It allows us to model good copyright practices for students, but also it ensures we are able to share our design beyond the classroom without concern for infringing upon the rights of the creator. You can share your curated content with your professional network, for example, or perhaps the school community through the newsletter. Using image collections like Pexels and Unsplash also ensure the quality of an image. Blurry or out of focus images will distract and detract from your design. You're easily able to download and utilize images from these platforms. So let's have a quick look at both tools. So you should be able to see Unsplash in front of me now. I'm just going to conduct a search for World War I images. And they do start by promoting paid content at the top of your results, but if you scroll just a little further down, you'll see the free options. If I click on an image, I get to see its original source, so I could visit the British Library for this one. If I hover over the logo, it will actually lead me towards more images within the Unsplash collection that are presented from the British Library. But I can easily just use this download button to save a copy of this onto my computer and then include it in my design. So Unsplash brings together resources from a range of sources that may have like particular educational value, like, for example, connecting you to digital collections from museums. Whereas the second image platform that we're going to have a look at, Pexels, focuses on sharing photography and videos more directly from the creators. So when I pop into this tool, I'm just going to do the same search, because that'll give you an idea of the different type of content. So you can see it's sort of more, modern photography. You can easily see the difference in the type of results, but they definitely have their different applications for design. But again, it's just as easy to quickly download that image with one click of my button, my mouse. And so I can easily grab these, use them without worrying about any of those potential copyright issues as well. The next tool, Flat Icon, is an amazing resource for web designing as well. It includes royalty-free icons But what makes it so useful is the quality and variety in the collections of icons. They're free to use with attribution. Of course, there's a paid subscription that allows access to some additional features, such as a range of file formats, but the free content is more than enough to suit most library needs. So let's have a quick look. I'm going to log in. What that allows me to do is keep a collection. I think it allows you up to 3 with the free account. A collection of icons as I find them. So that's what you can see on the far right there. And also, but it isn't necessary to have an account. You can actually just download them from a search without logging in. So I'm going to search for an icon for our reading page. If I was currently working on a design, I can actually just hover over an image and use this copy PNG to clipboard button. And essentially I could go and paste it into my design immediately. I can also easily just download a copy for use later on. And that might be helpful just in case you accidentally were to delete the icon and you really didn't want to have to come back to the flat icon and search again, that you would be able to keep a copy of all the important icons that you've been using. If I actually click into that item, now that I'm logged in, and even with the free account, this is not a feature for the pay, it's available to free accounts as well, I can actually edit the icon. And what that allows me to do is change the colors. So I might want to change the book color, so I might want it to be green. So I can easily do that. And then I can choose to download from this screen and choose from a selection of PNG file sizes. So depending on my purpose, I might want a larger file. So the bigger the pixels, the larger the file. Or maybe if it's for a small icon, I could use the small file size. The other forms of files, they're not available if you have a free account. In addition to that, I can actually scroll down further here and I can see related icons. So there's icons that are from the same search term, but also I'm able to see the collection that this particular icon comes from. I can look at this selection that they're presenting to me, and I could also click here and see more. And so you're able to potentially have some consistency in the presentation of your icons by using a collection, but also it's a quick way to find related icons to our purpose, which is education and learning. So you can see that particular selection of icons might be particularly useful in an educational setting. The next tool is one that is about a fast way to create custom visual elements for your design. Now, a lot of you are probably quite familiar with Canva. It's free for educational use, and they actually allow schools to access the full range of tools, even those that are part of the paid subscription for free. So that's part of their motto, that they want to do that for education. And this is the tool I used to create those banners for the World War I example portal. I did want to demonstrate just a couple features that you may or may not have discovered yourself, so to ensure you're getting the best out of this tool. So if I pop in and have a look at this banner that I've created, in the styles area, I can actually have a look at different combinations. And if I were to select one of these, you'll see that it very quickly changes the look of my template that I've used. So it's a way that you can save yourself some time, and by potentially creating the look from some of these pre-existing color combinations and text combinations. In addition to that, say I'm wanting to create a number of banners for a single portal, it's really easy to just pop into File and select Make a Copy in order to create a variation of this for a different subtopic. So it's really easy tool to use. The other thing I wanted to show you is in the elements section, if I were to search for, say, icons on a particular topic like war, if I find one that I'm interested in, when I click on it, it'll add it to my image and I can work with that later, but it also offers these magic recommendations. And so what it actually would allow you to do is to easily find similar images or perhaps a more specific presentation of a chosen image, but it saves you time if you're recreating these banners for different subtopics. So I really wanted to point those few things out to you. But just in general with Canva, the way that I like to use it the most is in the templates area. It's of particular value for time-poor designers, or perhaps those just getting started, which I know that some of you will be in that position. And they have these categories. The education category can be a great place to start. I actually use their infographics a lot. So if I click on the infographic here, you'll see that it comes back to me with a whole bunch of pre-designed. So taking that kind of stress of designing an appealing infographic away from me, I can choose one of these designs just by clicking on it. And then I can very easily select customize this template. And then I have full access to the editor. I can change the images, the text, but I can leave that layout and that design. So it really saves me a whole lot of time. But in particular, I might want consistent presentation of information across my, junior school, middle school, senior school. But this way I can change the actual level of content that's in there, and potentially the level of scaffolding, but there might be consistent presentation. And so I have two other tools. These actually are a little bit different. They aim to simplify some of those design choices for you. So the first tool is Coolers. The generator, which I can access by just clicking here, will present me with a random selection of colours that are complementary and work together as a colour palette. If I don't like one, I can very easily remove the colour. I can actually pick from a number of shades related to a particular colour that has been chosen. I can also use the spacebar to just give me another random selection of colour palettes. If I'm looking, I can actually match an image that I'm going to be using. So for example, here, if I pop into the Create palette from Portal, I can upload an image, but I'm just actually going to paste in quickly an image from online that I'm going to use in my design. And you'll see within seconds then, it pulls out colours from within that image that I could then use for my design. And if I pull this little slider around the bottom, it picks different parts of the image. So if I don't quite like the initial one, I can actually see what other design colour palettes might match that image. And so that can be a really handy feature for you. One tool that might be useful to meet the diverse needs of your students is the colour blindness checker. So when I turn this on, it actually allows me to see how a particular colour palette might view to a particular condition. So they're listed here, and if I change it, you can see it subtly changes the presentation of those colours to, I guess, approximate what a person with a particular colour blindness might be seeing. So that could be really helpful if you know that you've got students with that particular need. So rather than count on your luck with the random colour palette generator, if I pop back to this homepage, I can also have a look at trending colours by clicking on this area here. And so I can actually have a look through these options. If I hover over a colour, it will show me the hex code that identifies that colour. If I click on it, it actually copies it to my clipboard for me. So that can be a really handy way to start to think about colour design and colour choices. And rather than making those choices just, maybe you're using corporate colouring, but maybe for a particular portal, maybe it's for, say, promoting reading, you might want to be more colourful. So you can come in here and use this tool to help you with that. The last tool is called FontJoy. So this one's just a really quick one. Essentially, if you're wondering about what fonts you could use that would be complementary and not really fight with each other for attention, I can click the button Generate here, and it will choose 3 different fonts based on headings, subheadings, and then text. If I like one in particular, I can actually lock it. And if I regenerate, it will change only the ones that are unlocked. So I can start to play around with what fonts work together. That's another really great tool that you could use. Essentially, all of these tools are linked in the cheat sheet we're going to send you, and so you'll be able to have a play with these and see how they can support the really great work that you're trying to do. And just finally, on the last slide in my slide deck, I have included links to some of the documentation I've used, and I've actually included a link to a LibPaths portal that includes a whole lot of professional reading around content curation, not just what you're doing as the librarian, but also how content curation can be used by students to support their learning. So I wanted to just point out some of those resources, but that's in the slide deck that you'll receive as well. And so that's it from me. And so I just wanted to pass over to Colin from Concord to just say some final words for us.
Wow. Am I coming through okay, Andrea?
Yes, we can hear you.
First test. Well, first of all, thanks everybody who has joined us tonight for spending the last hour or so with us. And for those who didn't manage to join tonight, but do get all the way through to the end of this video, thanks for watching. We hope the session has been useful. I was aware, and we've been talking about what we were going to cover tonight and how we were going to try and present this in a way that gave everybody something to take away. But I haven't actually seen the presentations of either Madison or Andrea, only conceptually some idea of what was going to unfold. And I've got to say, I'm really blown away. We certainly have been advocating these types of tools, along with our LibPaths tool for curating information in that portal environment and distributing it to your students. But Madison, 18 months exposure to LibPaths, and you're making it sing and dance. And there's a couple of other people out there as well who are doing equally as good work. We've called on them in the past to share some ideas with others in these types of webinars. And I thought we might have been stretching our friendship a bit if we kept going back to the same people. So this time we spoke to Madison, and it's just amazing what you've achieved in 18 months or so, and the plans that you've got for moving ahead. Andrea, I've spoken to you about this so many times, and you've told me so many things, and I just believe you now. Well, I have no choice after this session, but to sit back and believe everything you say, because that's been a really eye-opening and I think a very broad overview of things that people do need to think about. We do in schools need to be embracing digital curation. We do know that our students, we often refer to them as the connected generation. We know that they're on devices a lot. We know that they're online a lot. We know that they use a range of different tools and social media and the like. And we know that those tools that they use almost every day of their life have taught them along the way what to expect technology will deliver to them. And so by combining these tools that we've just been looking at here in the last 5 or 10 minutes, along with the tools for curating this information and presenting it in a way that the professionals would be doing on the various platforms that these students are using daily, then you will engage them. You will make them in. They won't be able to walk away because they will say that this is just like every other experience I have with technology. This is just like every other experience I have when I'm online. So hopefully those ideas and concepts can be picked up. Do feel free to contact us and get some more information if you are interested. If you're particularly interested in how we do this in a LibPaths environment, we're happy to give you demonstrations and show you these things in action. Many people have already done that. As Madison said, we had so much interest in this product, or we have had, over the past 18 months or so, since people were going into lockdown and homeschooling and home education, that we did break it out into a separate product so that people who are using other platforms for their library or for anything else for that matter, learning management systems, etc., can use this independently of those systems and still achieve these fantastic outcomes in a matter of a short space of time. So thank you for that, ladies. And finally, Karen, I got in touch with you a couple of months ago and asked you whether you thought this might be a good idea. I hope you, and now that you've sat through it with us, can see that there is something here of interest for everybody. And thank you for the effort that you've put in getting this organised for tonight, getting the word out. We've all tried to get the word out in a variety of ways. And certainly EduWebinar has been very instrumental in organising, getting this running, doing the practice run the other night to make sure that all the technology was working, and recording the session, which we'll make available to those who have attended over the next few days. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to those who have sat there and listened to it. Thanks to those who have sat there and watched it after the event, and to the three ladies who have helped bring it all together tonight. Fantastic job.
And ways to connect with us and Madison are included on the cheat sheet. So if you do have questions that come up to you as you review this or have a look at the slide deck, don't be scared to contact us and ask. So we'll have all that information on the cheat sheet that's sent out with the video.
All right, well, everyone can have the night off now. Or the day, depending on where you happen to be watching from, or at least the rest of the day after school finishes. So thanks very much, and we'll sign off and get that information out to you as soon as it's ready. Thank you. Did you want to